This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it is time for Heart Mojo with Melinda Smith. And as all of you know, Melinda has been on numerous journeys, like many of us. But today's journey, we will be talking to John and Cynthia. Cynthia was on 2 weeks ago. And
Yep.
if you haven't listened to that podcast, please go back and listen to it because it's really, really important. So, Melinda,
Hey, Karen.
catch us up and then introduce your two guests.
Catch us up. Oh my goodness. I don't think I'm going to go into all of it. Let's just say I've recently had a job change. Not into a new position yet, but I do believe that this new challenge, is just a way to set me up for something even better. So it's how I choose to look at that challenge in my life. It's all going to be good. And that's what we talk about. My phrase is always, if I can get through this challenge, I know you can get through anything that challenges you. I promise. So that's my little catchphrase for what I do every day. And I'm so grateful to have Cynthia back. You were amazing.
Well,
when
so
we
are
spoke.
you. What a pleasure to be here. And I love it. It's all about attitude, Melinda.
Yes.
Truly, it is. I mean, we all face some form of challenge in life. And it might be simple as a budget issue, or it could be a health issue, or it could be a loss, but it's still a challenge. And everybody approaches challenges differently. So if we can put out a message that helps someone, our work here is good, right? Our work here is
Absolutely.
done for that person. But big challenge happens to the caregiver, the person that's
Mm.
with you in your life. And John, thank you so much for being part of this podcast. You are her partner, her life
Yeah,
partner,
yes,
and you've been there for the whole
the
process.
whole darn thing, yeah.
I was going to use the word
It's cer- it's
Megillah, but
certainly
you
the
have
word
to be
you-
Jewish to understand that when you say the whole Megillah, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't go there. The whole process.
Yeah, that's okay. That's a Megillah. Yeah, that's definitely a Megillah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we met
So
actually when we were 19,
Oh,
and we
God.
had 2 amazing years.
We were 19?
We were 19
All
then.
right.
someday
Long
we
time, long time, way back when.
We were actually, he was doing a show. He's an actor. He was doing a show with my mother. They were in a play together.
Yeah.
And I had just had my first breakup, and I thought, never again. I'm never going to be hurt like this again. And he walked in, and I just said, I'm going to embarrass you, but I said, who is that fox, to my girlfriends? And they said, he's Ed, because he
Jeez.
played Ed and you can't take it with you. And I said, I'm going to marry Ed. So we had 2 years where we went to school, we danced, we acted, we sang, all these, and
You
then
shot your little web out there. You enclosed and you dragged me in.
we
Yes.
had, yep, got to do that. Thank you.
I have to tell you, I
then
haven't
I got-
heard the word fox for a really long time.
I know it dates me, but I mean, come
Way
on.
back.
Woo.
That
And
goes a few
so
years back.
then at 21, that's when I got really, really sick. So and we were in college, and everything changed.
Everything
Forever.
changed.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, but you were meant, I truly do believe you were meant to be in her life,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah. This wasn't happenstance or, it was meant to be. Yeah, I mean, I think we've been through way too many things. This was an incredible coincidence. I think sometimes you connect, you find your soulmate, and hell or high water, you stick it out, that type of thing.
Absolutely.
Sure.
So can you share with us a little bit about how, you started out this life together with
Yeah.
quote unquote normal, not that any of us are ever really normal, but
Thank
normal life.
Yeah.
And then there was this incredible change. There were things happening. Can you kind of walk us through the process from your perspective?
Yeah. Well, okay. Let me. It was a few years ago. I think I can remember most of it now. It's kind of.
You're not that old yet.
Yeah,
You-
no, yeah, that's it. I'm good. I remember most of it. It does feel in some ways like it happened yesterday, but
Yeah. it does.
well, we were, I think Cynthia mentioned that we were, we met and then we coincidentally were going to go to the same university together.
Which helped because I was
Transferred,
going to
so-
marry him.
So I mean,
Right.
talk about, again, no sense of coincidence. That was definitely, in the cards. It was something in the cosmic configuration of things that we were going to be together. But anyway, we went to the same college and same university, and she was going as a dance major and I was going as a theater major. And so we were going to, once we graduated from University of California, Irvine, we were going to just head up north about 30 miles to Los Angeles and start a career in show business. You know,
And there was no plan B.
There was no plan B. This was going to be
Driven people.
You know,
Yes.
famous no plan B,
Yeah.
because you gotta, you know, you make it, you fake it until you make it, or you make it and
Absolutely.
then you just keep going. You know,
Another
so,
phrase that comes from a while ago, fake it till you make it, right?
right, fake it until you make it. So that was the plan.
Never
So
heard
again, you know, that was the plan, and to work real hard and to achieve our dreams. And you know, and that was it. That was the plan. And then during our last year at Irvine, this young lady has a dance injury, and which I thought at the beginning was going to just, you know, heal up just like anything else. I've been watching sports for years, and I just, these guys just get, you know, get off the field and they get, you know, get some therapy and then they're back on the field. And I thought that applied to dance too. And normally it does, but then she developed something called, at that time, reflex sympathetic dystrophy, now known as complex regional pain syndrome.
CRPS.
CRPS, but RSD at the time.
RSD.
But we didn't know that. We wouldn't find that out for another 13 years. That you know, that adds to the, you know, to the story here. But anyway, but what she does have is horrific pain that starts in her leg and starts spreading all over. And she can't walk, because she can't sit, she can't do anything. You know, she's not functional. She can't dance. Yeah, I mean, she can't just dance. She can't walk. And she,
But actually, we did go to Reno.
We
I got a
did,
job in
yeah.
Vegas, but I was just
this was,
suffering.
yeah, I mean, for
constantly.
the first year, she was able to get through that a year and a half or two, and then she was able to muscle through the pain, which was excruciating because she could perform at night, but during the day, she would be literally crawling around.
Even in between shows, we did
Yeah.
2 shows a night. In between shows, I just ice it and heat it. And
Right. But
suffer.
again, during this
Yeah.
time, this early phase, I just thought this is something that's going to go away at some point, because heck, it has to. I mean, this is impossible. It's just something that, you know, is going to heal up at some point.
Well, and
But-
you're young. When you're
Yeah, we're
young,
young.
We're 21.
think
This is, yeah,
it's
right.
going to be
We're-
gone. You know, you've
Right.
hurt yourself before. It's going to go away.
Yeah, it's
Right.
going to go away, because that's what, you know, we're young, right? Everything heals up. You know, you're young. It's gonna go away, because it does. Everything usually does go away.
But then
So-
it didn't go away.
But then it didn't go away. So as
It kept getting
you
worse.
had to I mean, we got into an illusion act, and she was the dancer and I was the ta-da boy and that kind of thing. And we kept this going, and it was something she could
Because
do.
we were going to hold on to our lives. We were
So
going
we
to
went
keep
to
the career.
Reno.
We were going to, yeah.
We went to Vegas. That was great, a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
But then her pain spread into another part of her body. That's another
Didn't make any sense.
classic characteristics of Crips. It can spread, and it went from her right leg into her left leg. And so at that time she had to quit, and so she went back to the Bay Area, back home, to try
My
to
mother's
again
home.
heal up. And I continued on with the act for a while, and then I joined.
And we
her.
looked at it as he was saving for our future and I was going to get well.
Exactly.
But I have to say, deep
Right.
down, I knew I was never going to get
So
well. I
again,
could feel
but my
it.
mindset was still that this was going, I mean, even though it had
You didn't
carried
believe
on
me.
for a year and a half, I thought this has got to have an end game somewhere. It's got to get better. And I thought, okay, now she's off it. She's not dancing anymore. It's just going to heal up. So by the time I got, and this is the mid 80s, and by the time I got back home, back to the Bay Area, it went from bad to worse.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Just kept getting, then it went up into my vocal cords and for 5 years I couldn't speak.
Right. And then we tried to, you know, through the
So-
healthcare system she was in, tried to get help.
Explain that, Cynthia. You couldn't speak at all?
No, I mean, it wasn't 5 consecutive years, but it was altogether at least 5 years, where I was bedridden for 10 years. And I mean, it was so bad. It was just torture. And then the not being able to speak those were the darkest years for me.
Those were the darkest years. So and those happened that was more toward the end of the 80s. But before that, you know, it went from bad to worse. And that was part of it.
Yeah.
So
But
Cynthia, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but so you can't talk. What happened? Did you wake up one day and you couldn't speak? Did you?
No, what happened is the CRPS, the pain, you know, spread into my vocal cords. It was like up here in my neck and down in my stomach. And what happened is I got a hiatal hernia, and that spread the CRPS. So I had so much pain if I spoke that I'd be curled up literally for days and days. And it just got to the point where I wrote on a board. It was a toy from Toys R Us, and I'd lift it and show him and
Oh, yeah.
exclamation point, and we developed our own sign language. And to this day,
You would write him
I
a
write in his hand, and when my voice gets bad, it's been bad lately, I write in his hand again, I do sounds.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what that means.
Yeah.
We have our own sign language, and I'll make sounds and I'll write in his hand so he understands what I'm trying to tell him. And ultimately it's torture. It's just, I think that's the darkest.
You know,
And then not being able to walk.
you adapt to whatever the situation.
Yeah, but if you can't communicate, like,
Yeah.
yeah, it sucks not to be able to walk. Trust me, I know that
Yeah.
too. But
Yeah.
if you can't communicate, it's one of the things that, with the Parkinson's diagnosis that I have, that is a potential thing where your vocal cords freeze. So you can't talk, you can't swallow well. That's a scary thing to think about, right?
Yeah.
So, John, when this started happening, where were you, like,
Oh, yeah.
in how to deal with it? How did you look at, how can I help her? This is a person I love. This is a person I want to get better. What could you do?
That was it. Yeah, I mean, that was the point. But again, this idea that this is going to go away, but then it started seeping in that maybe this isn't going to go away because it's been going on for 2 or 3 years now, and the doctors are not helpful. The healthcare
Quite the
system she's
opposite.
in, they're saying it's in her head, things of this nature. So we're losing
Where
hope.
did how did you feel when they said I was crazy?
Well, I felt, I felt angry, but I also felt frustrated and, hopeless and helpless at times because I lived with this woman. I knew she was in pain. I knew this wasn't a lie or a deceit or some kind of weird, manifestation. This was something that was happening. We didn't know what was going on. And again, the doctors who we are saviors, right? We go to them to pull us out of this morass. We're doing quite the opposite. They were making things worse by, implying that this was not real. So anyway, but the point is, where was I? I was having to, make a decision. I was in my mid-20s at that time, and I hadn't signed up for this. I had signed up for, like what we just described earlier, this life of, something special. And this was not special, hanging out in her old bedroom up in the Bay Area.
Alone, because even my mom left, yeah.
And as people started going on with their lives and people didn't have an understanding what was going on with us, we're starting to, less and less compassion was going on. People were peeling out, heading for the hills, things of this nature. Yeah. And we were being left behind. So it was a really, it was a really profoundly disturbing time because you're losing your basis of what you thought your life was going to happen, and things are seem to be further and further away each day. So
and you're young, right? So
you're young.
I want to go out and do these things. I want to have fun, and you're torn.
Because
care and outside life, right?
Yeah, right.
No, it's interesting.
And that was the thing. Life was becoming smaller and smaller and more isolated. And it was becoming more of a, just her and me talking about what's going on and how we're going to get out of this. And,
right.
What is our next move? And, how can we find out what's going on? But more so, having to stay up with her all night, and because this excruciating pain would keep her up all night. And it was a constant battle to try to manage the symptoms of what was going on, even though we didn't know what was going on, but this pain that was so excruciating all day. And it is excruciating pain. If anybody knows pain like this, they know.
John, did your family or your friends try to encourage you to walk away? You're a young guy. You have your future ahead of you. Yeah. Why are you sticking with Cynthia?
Yeah, well, I don't remember anybody saying that directly to me, but I'm sure it was non-verbally communicated to me, and I'm sure there, I'm sure there were a couple of people that implied that, that this is kind of a losing proposition, and you're gonna go down the tubes with this, and that's understandable.
Your dad, just before he passed, he said that he had asked you about it. His dad was a saint, and he would asked you about, Cynthia's really sick, and he was really concerned, but you said, "I love her." And he said, "That's all I needed to hear."
Well, that's where it all boiled down to at one point, because I would, honestly, I was very confused and I was having a difficult time. Yes, nobody was saying, hey, maybe you should split and get the hell out of here. But that's certainly not, these thoughts were going through my head, and I'm not going to deny that. I mean, I've said this before. And I think that's just
Wait, what? No,
because it's, it's getting heavy. I mean, it's getting
was
heavy.
very,
and
very
it's,
heavy.
and there's no, every day is a big dark cloud. So,
And you were making a choice to stay. I'm just going to throw this in. I had a son. My second son was very ill a lot.
sure.
Wow.
And when you said you were up all night, I was up all night holding him. He's crying when he would be in his sleep. He was in such terrible pain.
Yes.
We didn't know why he was in pain. We couldn't figure it out. Medications. So even though I've had my own medical issues as I've gotten older, I have been in your shoes 100%, sitting there not knowing what's causing it, trying to help him. But as a mom, right, that's kind of, it's not I mean, I guess some people would say it is a choice, but I didn't feel it was ever a choice. I'm mom. You had a choice.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Melinda. I appreciate that.
I do too.
And I
Because he always says he didn't have a choice. I mean,
He did.
I did.
did have a
I know I
choice.
had a choice, but I had to, I left for a while. I mean, I didn't leave for a
No,
while.
you
I went back to the act for a
you
while.
kept working,
And,
yeah.
I kept working.
right.
And what I said I was doing, I went back to work so we could earn some money to get going once I got back. But also, I think it was a release valve for me also to get out of there occasionally. And that's, there it is. So,
And that's really okay, because you
Yeah.
need a little bit of a release to be a better caregiver.
It needs a
Truly.
little bit of a geographic, but it gave me some headspace. It gave me some space to really say, at one point I really said, I got to make a decision. I can't just keep on coming and going. Is this something I'm going to help this woman and us figure out and get out together, or am I going to just say goodbye? And I never seriously, I really honestly never thought of the second one, but the first one
I'll bet it
was
went through your head.
it was a hard pill to swallow because, again, we had no idea what this was, how long this was going to go on for, and all
And
that
I was
business.
very honest.
So-
I told him it's never going to go away. I
But
can feel it.
One of the times I came back, I just in a very quiet space and dug deep, and I decided, no, I'm staying here. I'm coming back. I'm staying for good. I'm not going to keep on coming and going. And
I remember
and
you
that
said
was
that
it.
to
I
me,
told
yeah.
you that this is it, and we're going to figure this out.
I though
and
never for a
I've
moment
never
thought he'd
regretted
leave
that
me.
for a moment because it's been a special, beautiful life. So I think I made the right decision. But that being said, like Melinda, what you say, you're up at 3 o'clock in the middle of the night, and you're holding somebody who you love, and they're in excruciating pain. I don't think there's much worse than that somebody as a caregiver has to go through. Because it's so.
You're helpless.
Your soul aches so hard and so much for somebody who you love.
And you feel helpless.
You feel
And he was. I
Right.
remember one time we were at my mother's house and you drove home. I somehow got in the car, and then you carried me to my bedroom, and we got ice on the leg. And I remember you were just so desperate to anything to give me relief. And then I remember when I said, it's better, and you just started crying.
Yeah.
And it was just like,
Yeah.
he's crying because I'm better. It's just, I've never really understood why you cried then. Do you remember?
Because there's no better thing to see the person you love. that's
'Cause there
in
was
pain. You find
relief.
relief somewhere, just that is eased. And it's not for your, I mean, it is for yourself to a certain degree, but you just want that person to be out of pain.
Right.
And if it happens miraculously, if there's been some divine intervention that makes that happen, great. I don't care. Whatever. It's all good, so. That's
And
what
it's
that
really
was.
hard to explain this. And that's why I wanted to discuss this to other people who have never been in that position. I've had people say to me, well, why would you stay up all night with your son? He could have been in his bed and, give him medication, he'll sleep. That didn't always happen. And he cried in his sleep. And it hurt my heart to be
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah.
I don't think you can truly understand what it's like to love somebody so completely and want them to be better and feel so helpless that you can't make that happen. And particularly, I mean, as a mom, you feel that way about your child, and as a spouse or a significant other, you feel that way about the person that you brought into your life and created your own home with.
Right.
It's a powerless feeling.
It is.
Right, and
powerless
I'm
feeling.
remembering, I'm going way back. where you used to say, if only you'd been with somebody else, if only another man could have made you
Yeah.
well. I remember that.
Yeah. I mean,
And
you
that
start
hurt.
playing, you start playing those head games with yourself where you go,
Like it's your
maybe
fault.
Yeah.
It's my fault.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, I would say, how
Yeah.
would that
Yeah,
have changed?
I am
Yeah.
failing her. I am the flaw. I am the defect. Because if somebody was around who was stronger, or had more money,
That's what I
or
always said.
had more connections, or I don't know what, but she wouldn't be in this kind of pain. And that does a number on you, and
It does.
and it makes you feel, it only contributes to a feeling of helplessness even
Well,
more.
and I think we were brought up in a very different generation, because we're
Yeah.
not that far apart in age,
Right.
where, when you're in a relationship, the male of the relationship is supposed to be able to fix everything,
Thank you. Right.
whether it's from fixing the toilet to fixing a medical problem, right?
Yeah,
And
true.
and the new generations, the younger kids, they're on a little bit more equal footing in a
That's
relationship,
good to hear. That's nice.
but we weren't brought up that way.
No.
So
Yeah.
that's a tremendous amount of pressure on you, John,
Yeah.
to think, and I'm sure that was internal, whether you expressed it on a regular basis or not, that was going through your head.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right, Melinda. And I know that was a part of it. Right. You're supposed to be the knight in
man.
shining
You're supposed to be the
armor.
man. Yeah.
She's the
Superman.
maiden,
Yeah.
in distress. And
Which
you're
I thought he
supposed to
was.
put
He
her on
is.
your mount and ride off to the hills, and everything's going to be just a-okay, and that is your duty and that is your job. And damn
But
it.
he is Superman.
Oh,
Yeah.
he is. Yeah.
Yeah, well, but I didn't make that. I didn't make that connection. then.
He's human too.
Yeah,
Right.
Right.
And actually, when we finally started For Grace,
And-
and that, I mean,
Right.
that because we're really compatible, and so I think working together, which is what we did before, I think that's been something that's really, really helped us. And helped us move forward, knowing that we're helping other people, and we're always working,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we've always got things to do together, and I think that was
Yeah.
a major.
That was the
A major
Grace
part, that was a huge, that just like lifted us,
Yeah,
1,000
that was a
miles.
game changer
Right.
in
Yeah.
many ways, but right. I mean, at some point you, right.
We had
especially if you're-
purpose together. We finally stopped trying to get well. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I remember
We were
when
trying- yeah.
I posed for Playboy, actually. I mean, it was like anything
Good
I
for you.
wanted my career back. And then finally after that, we just moved to Los Angeles. And I thought, if I wait for a diagnosis, I'll be 85 and I'll still be
Right.
ready. You always said you will be diagnosed. I know you will be, and you were
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But how did I get diagnosed?
Well, we just kept plugging at
remember?
it.
You
well,
actually,
I was-
you decided to have my internist be your internist.
Oh, okay, right. And she opened up with what she thought you had, right?
She
Yeah.
told him what I
But-
had.
Right, but
So you got the diagnosis for me.
good. I'm glad that happened. But
But you know-
a few years in between,
You brought something up earlier that in the beginning, the doctors made it sound like this was all in your head.
Yeah.
And as I told you, I suffer from migraines and debilitating times. And doctors would even say, it's in your head. And I remember one day being in the emergency room saying, you are right. It's in my head. My head is pounding. And
Yeah,
the
good for you.
doctor looked at me differently and said,
Ah,
okay, you're not crazy. And it's like,
Wow.
oh, well, thank you. But
Yeah.
doctors tend to do that to
They
women.
do.
They sure do.
Especially to
And
women.
they're still doing it. So
Yeah.
if John had had the problem, they probably would have said to you, Cynthia, be kind, be gentle, and whatever. But they never would have said it was in his head.
And you're right. You're right, Karen. It's not in their head. If it's a man, it's, a man is, we'll see back in our day, men were much more important than women. We're second-class citizens. And when it's mostly women who have pain. And that's what we do at For Grace. We promote care and wellness for women in pain because of the gender bias.
They
right.
used
When
to
we
call
women
it hysteria. Women had hysteria.
Hysterectomy, that's where that word comes from.
Right.
And when we report our pain to our physicians, we're told that it's all in our head, it's hormonal. And yet if a man has pain, they generally treat the man, including opioids. So I just find, women hurt more and are helped less. So that's an interesting.
Most medicine is designed for men anyway.
Sure is.
Yeah,
and women aren't
yeah,
used in
yeah.
clinical studies,
Right.
Not even female rats until recently.
Right.
And I'm sure there was a dynamic that played out when we would go into the room together, you know, early on. This is the 80s, 90s.
I started
before we
taking
got
her to
this
be my
diagnosis.
witness.
But yeah, I came
Yeah.
in to be her witness. But now I think of it as we talk a little bit more. I mean, there's a lot of little agendas that go on. And so you go into a room and you see a male doctor, and he's talking to you, explaining to us that he thinks this is something psychogenic. And he's not even.
But the thing is, he
Often
wouldn't talk to me.
they
He would
wouldn't
only
even
talk to
to
you.
you.
They would
Yeah.
He would only talk to
But
me.
it's almost
And I'd
like
be in my
they're,
wheelchair going, excuse me,
but they're
I'm the
almost,
patient.
they're almost trying to bond with me to make us
To make you
understand
think that
You
I was
agree.
crazy.
I'm the
Exactly.
little woman's a little off, and you need to get a grip on that and stop being this, providing secondary gain and things of this nature that they would lay on
That's
me. Like
interesting.
I'm too attentive. I'm being there too much for her.
They said that a lot, yeah.
I'm enabling her to act like this. Things, just all this madness. And so I don't know. In some ways, I think they were trying to make this bondship with the guy.
Have you
to
joined the
make him see-
fraternity?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, because it was
I never
I
tried
never
to break
took the bait.
us.
I never
Yeah.
took the bait.
Good
I
for
don't know.
you.
I think so.
it was a doctor's way of getting what his thoughts were through
Yeah.
you to her.
Oh,
So that
Right.
she's not believing the doctor, but she's going to believe you, and that's what they
Yeah.
were trying to do.
I think
believe.
they're
It's
trying
just
to, it's a
awful.
little attempt to try to kind of kneecap this whole situation, kind of undermine this support system. And
Wow.
if I cave, then, it's a done deal. I'm only, I say, hey, honey, I think this is all in your head, then it's.
Did you ever
it's a
think
fait
it was
accompli.
all? Did you ever think? I mean, every doctor told me
No,
that.
I didn't think it was all in your head. I just didn't know what was going on, and it was really driving me batty that we couldn't get a handle on this. And then so, but going back to the caregiver piece, what I did to compensate for this is that I just poured everything I was into her, and I figured, like we talked about, the guy is supposed to save the day. So I figured if I gave over everything I was to her, and if I gave her every bit of energy I had, and every bit of anything I had, then we could somehow, collectively get out of this. But of course, that was an act of love, and it was probably, in some ways, a compassionate thing to do, but also what it was undermining me and my ability to sustain in this situation, because I was literally sleeping 3 hours a night. Or
Right.
I wasn't, whoever I was no longer important.
That's what I was going to ask you. How could you find a balance for yourself,
Yeah.
who you are as a person? Because if you can maintain your own balance, you are a better caregiver for her.
Right.
And there were financial consequences to
Oh, yeah.
this, the time consequence, the health consequence to you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Affected your
yeah.
relationship and the ability to sustain your home.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I even
that's
remember,
critical.
as you're talking about this, I remember I would rage every night. I mean, I went
Yeah.
through periods where I would just rage, get my mom on the phone. John would suffer. I wasn't going to lose my life without, easily.
Without a
Yeah.
fight.
Yeah, I really
Yeah,
fought. And
yeah.
I remember one night, because I didn't know if I became pretty suicidal. And because I didn't see a way out ever. And I couldn't see it. And I remember staying up all night raging. And then he had a job that he hated, working at a bank where it was kind of mindless and you couldn't bring anything home. And I remember you slept for about 20 minutes and the alarm went off and he got up. And I think he just said, I'm not going to let the bastards beat me. And that's what gave me actually the strength to keep going. I thought, well, if he's not going to let the bastards beat him, I'm not either. So you gave me that strength to keep
Yeah. Well, sometimes you just dig in your heels and you say, whatever card you're dealt, you're gonna take it on, because what's our choice? We just, I don't know. We're not built that way. I don't know, and I don't begrudge, I don't judge anybody that folds at some point on this, because it's a tough road, but that was it. I don't know. I just had to turn, I'm using multiple metaphors. I had to turn the screws down and say, I gotta do it. I gotta keep going, because if I don't keep going, she's not going to keep going. And we don't have a choice here. We just got to, I don't care if I got 20 minutes to play for a half hour.
Back again to the point, you do have a choice.
Yeah.
And you made the choice to be her support and be there. I can't tell you how many people I talk to in the breast cancer world where their significant other walks away, their family walks away.
Oh, mine did.
They They can't deal with the pressure of what's going on. So what is it that you saw? And I don't know if you're going to be able to answer, but what is it that you saw in your togetherness, your couple, who you were as people that made you say, you know what? I'm not walking away. I'm here for the long haul. This is a decision I made because you made that choice. So I don't know, maybe you don't have the answer. Maybe it's something inside, but if you do, or maybe you can think about it, what was that turning moment for you where you went, you know what? I'm here.
Yeah, great question, Melinda. And I think everybody, yeah, right, either consciously or unconsciously comes up with some, some answer to that. But the point is, I don't know. I think it was just a basic premise and concept that it was an us. This is an us proposition.
I knew you were going to say us.
We're going to work this out together. We're more powerful together. We can, however we're going to get out of this is going to work better if we work together and stay in each other's corner and keep fighting along and yes, get up every morning and keep, at times she would, I would be down and she'd be up, and she'd be down and I'd be up. It was just kind of,
we're really good partners.
But it was
well,
about,
is it the thought that even if you said we're going to do this together, we're going to get through it together, but even if we have a failure, we're going to get through it together.
Exactly. And it's about, it's about self-respect, self-esteem, dignity, a lot of things that, these ideas that are just merely notions in our heads. We haven't, no one's putting a gun to our head type of thing. You're just, it's something, how can I live with myself at the end of the day if I don't do 100%? If I don't work like,
what a guy.
Work like a, like whatever to get out to help this woman and help her. And,
but I do.
And eventually, I realized the turning, I realized something started clicking in my head. There was a process I went through that finally clicked in my head that, all right, this is a long haul type of thing, and we need to find something sustainable. And I can't just give up on myself. I've got to be a part of, I've got to nurture myself too. I got to be a caregiver to myself also.
And before that,
how important?
Gained a lot of weight.
Yeah, before that, yeah.
I mean, you were, I don't know, I said you
I wasn't sleeping. Yeah, I was eating badly. I was eating poorly. I mean, I was putting.
You weren't taking. It was almost like you were punishing yourself.
Right.
And like flogging yourself.
Yeah,
and I got to the point where it's like I thought he almost became invisible because it was too painful for me to see him.
Yeah.
And this will sound horrible, but on one Valentine's Day, you asked me what I wanted, and I said, I really want you to lose the weight.
Right.
And we talked about it. It was kind of oddly romantic, and he did. And I wanted you to start taking care of yourself.
It was a little Valentine's
Day. I know it sounds horrible whenever I tell people, but I needed you to be healthy and not lose yourself. Because I was losing John.
But that was part of why you didn't see me is because I didn't see me either anymore. And so that, that's kind of part of the psychology behind that. I think
it's so common with caregivers. They lose their identity, they lose who they are. And that's the thing that brought you two together, right? Was the identity, your individual identities. And for her, going through everything she's going through, she's looking at you going, oh my God, I don't want to lose the man that I love, the person that I am. I appreciate what he's doing, but I don't want to lose you.
I actually never thought that. I never ever thought that he would leave. Never even.
No, I didn't mean leave. I mean lose who he was as a person.
Exactly. Wow, Melinda, I never even. You're right. That was exactly it.
Respected, you loved, that you valued,
and he was
as your partner. And he didn't want to lose you either. So he's giving everything there. You're watching this happen, and the dynamics of that has to be. Well, and I know it is. It tears you apart.
Yeah.
I don't mean physically. I mean mentally.
Yeah, I did.
Right. And I think for me, the basic mental shift happened when I said, I have to do better, to I'm doing the best I can. I'm doing the best I can. And if I wake up every day and I know I'm giving 100%, then that's all I can do. And to me, that was a monumental shift in perception about what was going on here. And it was okay then to take some time for myself.
And Cynthia, did you understand that? Did you,
Yes.
did you believe
But-
that he was doing the best he could? Because that's another issue. The person who is not well is angry at life,
Yeah.
takes it out on the other person, like, you're not giving me enough. You're not doing.
Exactly. Why don't you think he was the only, my family left really fast. And I mean, he's been really angry at them, like for 38 years, they've never asked, you know, how is she? How are you? Can I help? And yeah, and so, yeah, I did get really angry and I wanted you back. And
Well, you felt a little threatened at times. 'Cause
And then-
when-
and
yeah,
then-
then
and
I
then-
started reaching out to
Right,
other,
yes.
to try to do some things individually. You know,
And I
it's-
was very threatened. I remember he said, I'm going to go to a Simplicity Circle meeting. And I thought, what is that? And what do you
Yeah,
mean
what
you're
is
going to go?
Why are you
And-
leaving?
I
Yeah,
know.
what-
And then he said, you can come with me. And I thought, well, I don't, what is this? And I hadn't gotten out of
Because
the house
I'm
forever.
going to be gone for a couple hours. I
Yeah,
may have to
right.
be gone for about 3 hours.
And I ended up going with him, but I was really, really threatened by this. And it ended up being a circle that I loved. I loved the people. We were with it until it closed like 10 years later.
Yeah.
But that was the joke always, was that Cynthia said, well, I'm here because my caregiver's here. And if I didn't show up, it'd be 2 more hours alone. But I ended up loving it. And then you got a community garden. And slowly I realized this is good for him. You know, he started going on walks. He started getting
Right.
exercise.
Yeah.
And then I was really supportive. And then I would start pushing him. You need to do this. I still do that.
Yeah.
Because John still really lives through me. And I think that in the morning or when he comes in, if he's been gone doing errands, whatever you've been doing to help, he comes in and he sees the mood I'm in. And then that is the mood that he's going to be in.
Right.
You know, if I'm miserable, it doesn't happen so much now. But if
Yeah.
I'm miserable, he's going to be miserable. And if Cynthia's happy, then John's going to be happy. And, you know, and you really live
Yes.
through me. And actually,
Yeah.
I have to say, when we
Right.
wrote our memoir together, we didn't plan to write it together. But I started writing it. My agent said, no one's going to believe your story unless you bring John in as your partner, caregiver, and witness.
Mhm.
And so we asked John to write a take, like a little take at the end, John's take at the end of each chapter.
Yeah.
John wrote about Cynthia.
Yeah.
And we'd look at it and say, isn't that, wow, because John's a writer. It's like, how can he not see that? And
Yeah.
finally, we put me in front of a movie. Dick, our editor, was like, you're
Yeah.
going to write. Cynthia
Yeah.
doesn't need you for 2 hours. She can call me.
Oh,
And he finally
right.
started writing about John. But that was
Oh, I see.
after I
Hmm.
had to give you permission to hurt me.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you remember all this.
Yeah, of course. I
And you
remember-
couldn't stop writing
Yeah,
because he
yeah,
wrote about
right.
himself.
That was it. You know, I needed to have the space to say whatever I wanted to say, however I felt it,
Real.
without, you know, a lot of editing of myself and my feelings, because again, that's again
Wow.
what a caregiver does, right? We always are tempering our feelings because, and we don't want to tell the person we're with that you're driving me nuts, or, you know, I'm going to crack up, or I'm going to, you know, you've got to cut off the crap, you know,
There's
type
a lot
thing.
of guilt there, right?
Yeah, there's potentially a lot of guilt, but that's what relieved when I said I am doing the best I can. That helps you, right, get off the guilt train, because
And you also stopped
because-
saying, if I was another man, I could fix you.
yeah, the guilt
No.
comes from
And
this idea you can never do enough.
Right.
And if you can say, hey, I am doing enough, I'm doing the best I can, so that takes away the guilt, that opens up some psychic energy and some healing energy for yourself.
He really changed. I mean, it's just like,
Yeah.
and I do believe
And that's-
narrative therapy
yeah.
helped you, and
Yeah.
something just changed in you.
Right.
And you became John again, but we still struggle with, I mean,
Right.
if we're at the airport, which we're going to start doing again, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. He's pushing me in the wheelchair. He's
Right.
got all the bags, and someone will say, can I help? And he always says, no, I'm fine. I'll do, excuse me. Yes, I need your help. You know, I
I'm
mean,
working on that.
it's
I'm
really
getting better
hard.
about that.
It's really hard for you those days.
Sure,
Yeah.
because I don't know. It's again another great caregiver trap is that you know how to do everything. You know how
Right.
to do it right. You know, nobody. You know, if you it
Nobody
takes
else
more
does
energy
it
to get
as
somebody
good
else to
Well,
figure
there's
it
sort of a rhythm
Yeah.
to caregiving, like, you know,
Right.
my movements, what they mean. And,
Right.
But I remember I was in
But-
Europe, I think, with a group of women, and you couldn't be with me that day. Do you remember we were working?
Yeah.
And
That was
these
great.
women took care of me all
That was
day. It's
great.
like, it was okay. They didn't have the rhythm, and it was wonderful. You know, I mean, you know,
Sure,
it was-
but for the first half hour, I'm going, oh, we're going to have a disaster because I'm not there to help you. But
You're
then
not there to
help.
everything calms down. Just like, you know, Melinda, I'm sure with your son, you realize that, you know, somebody else can do this job.
and
too.
I wonder if you're
bet.
threatened by that.
To this day?
Yeah.
No, not at
Okay.
all. I just don't want disaster.
I think
to
it was
happen.
worry that something would
Yeah.
happen. Listen, I used to sit in the parking lot of the school
Wow.
all day long. to make
Yeah,
sure
I
he
get it.
Melinda.
stayed into
Yeah.
school if he needed me.
Wow.
That's a
So
beautiful.
I would do, and I really wasn't working. I did fundraising. So I would make calls and work on whatever I had to do or read what I had to read and be there. So I get it. It's like if I'm not there that day, something bad's going to happen, right? So he felt that way. He needed to know I was there. And I began to feel that way, which is what you're telling me there, that if you weren't there for that moment, something bad was going to happen
Yeah.
because you could make the difference. That's not necessarily true, but
Yeah.
it's what we believe as the caregiver, like
Yeah.
we have to be there.
Right.
Right.
It's a bit of a delusion, I guess, it's meant to do good, but but if you're on call 24/7, it's not a sustainable way to live, and it's
No.
not
And
a
you,
healthy
you
way
know
to
what's
live.
interesting is lately, like the last 6 months, oh no.
Yeah.
Like for the last 6 months, I spoke to you about it once. No, you're so good that you'll
Oh,
say, it's always, can I get you something? Is there something more that I can get you?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
he'll make dinner and
Sure.
serve me. And then the moment I say something, he turns up. There, I have more. You always want to do more for me. And sometimes I think I can't take it anymore. It's like I'm good. I'm
Sure.
saying the food's good because it's good, not because I need something more. So there's that with the care recipient. It's
Yeah.
hard
Right.
it just feels like I've lost all my independence if I constantly hear, can
Sure.
I do something more? And I actually like it if
Sure.
I'm working and maybe I'm on Zoom and you just go in the other room and close the door. And then
Yeah.
I know that
Yeah.
I can call you because that's like kind of my good time to just,
Yeah.
we need to be
Yeah.
apart sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, and
What are you
that's-
doing on the show? I'm kidding.
I don't know.
What am I doing on the show?
here? I don't know. I had nowhere else to go. I thought I'd hang out with you. No, it's a process. It's a process. We're still working
Caregiving
through
is a
this.
process.
Yeah, it is.
I didn't
there's-
hear you, Melinda.
The caregiving is a process.
It is a
It's
process.
a learning process. It's an understanding process. It's a growth process.
It's just about to use that word growth, and but you have to trust that you are doing what you're doing out of a deep sense of love and commitment. But again, you have to trust that it's going to be okay at the end of the day.
Right.
We're going to make it through this. And
And
that's
kind of
what
if it's not okay,
Yeah.
that's okay. It just
It's
Right.
okay to not be
It's okay. Some days are going to be good.
Yeah.
Some days are going to be the worst day you can
And
ever
that's
experience
life.
in your life, right?
Right.
And you understand that that's the process, and that this thing is set up to fail at certain points. You are going to fail. It's just like
Right.
anything
But-
you try hard to achieve.
But
right?
that's life with or without an illness too.
Right.
It's
It
so
is.
what
You're
keeps
right.
it-
That's true.
But I have a question for you because I saw on Facebook, on your Facebook page, Cynthia, a picture of you guys in a restaurant, and you don't look ill. You're smiling. You're all dressed up. How is it when you go out? Do people maybe think, hey, Cynthia's not in as much pain as she says she is because look at her.
She's smiling. She looks beautiful,
Thank you.
right?
And
I hear that all the time. I've heard that for 38 years. I've heard, I think I've told you, I've heard, you're too pretty to be sick. You're too trim to be sick. I mean, I just always hear that. Now I hear more because people do know that I'm in this much pain. I think probably because of all the work that I've done. And I mean, why would somebody do that? If they're not in the pain. But I think a friend just said to me, how can you always be smiling? And I don't really know the answer to that, yet I hear that all the time. You two love each other so much. How is that possible? And it just is. It's just, that's real. And I think when we're with people, we're just naturally very social people. I'm more
Yeah.
outgoing than you are, but we
Yeah.
love to be with people.
Yeah.
And I just feel like we can say hello to the day or people with a smile or be angry. And I choose to smile.
You choose to smile. You choose to
Yeah.
get through it. So I have a question. If you thought about your life, where would you be today if you didn't have the illness? If it didn't happen to you as a couple? Have you ever given a thought of where you would be and what your choice, if you could choose to make that change? Nobody wants to be in pain. So we're not talking about the pain. We're talking about the relationship that the two of you have, the bond that you have. Where do you think you'd be if you hadn't gone through this journey?
So I've thought about that a lot. And I tend to think that we
Hmm.
would have lost each other because I was actually I'm more driven than you are.
Sure.
And
Sure.
I think I was so young. I always said back when, we thought I'd get better. I thought 19 is too young to find your, life partner. So I thought I know I'm going to date more. And I think that I probably would have, and I might very well have lost John. And that would have been the greatest tragedy of all. I like to think, and people say, you probably would have found him again if you had lost each other.
Yeah.
But there's no way to know.
No, there isn't.
Lost each other. Imagine I could never, ever have found a partner like John.
But yeah, right. I agree. Who knows how this would have gone, without this? I mean, sometimes the ties that bind,
It's a good question.
bind you together. But I think if we had stuck together and had our lives the way we wanted, there are certainly some things that would have happened that we, some
Having
some of the
children.
bond that we have that we wouldn't have, because sometimes it is the hottest fires.
The greatest souls are forged by the hottest fires.
The greatest, couples are forged by the greatest, hottest fires.
Well
too.
said.
I mean, I'm just saying it puts you, when your feet to the fire like that, and you have to manage things on a day-to-day basis like we've had. There's a soulfulness that happens because of that. And maybe that wouldn't be there if we hadn't gone through
It
this.
couldn't
Maybe
be. It couldn't
everything's,
be.
everything would have been better in a lot of ways, but in some ways, things may have not have been as deeper.
As deep.
Right. You
I mean,
wouldn't have the depth of the relationship, the light that I see when I see the two of you together that you have. I think, how many couples have I seen that have been together 30 years and they're like, one's doing this, one's doing that. There's no bond.
Yeah.
So
we've been together over 40 years.
Okay, so 40 years. I mean, if you just think about it. Now, I will tell you, I've seen a lot of older couples together who are in, communities, senior communities, and it's amazing how they take care of each other.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But there aren't a lot of those in the world. And so if there's a blessing that comes out of what you've gone through, I think that's it. I mean, you have a bond, you have a relationship that many people never get to have in their lifetime.
Sure.
Thank you,
I
Melinda. And I always do say, boy, I got lucky in one way. Boy, this guy, I couldn't have been luckier when it comes to love. So that sure keeps me going.
Yeah. Well, that's it.
You got me
That's
almost
it.
cried so many times. I didn't get a cry. Oh my gosh.
At the end of the day, you gotta figure. I think this goes for everybody. It's been in a long-term relationship. You gotta reassess and reevaluate often, every day. It's like, this is how is this working out? Is this this is good? How can we keep this going?
But it's also so amazing to always know that somebody has your back.
Yeah.
And we both know.
And I think, again, a mutual respect and regard for each other's individuality, respect each other's needs, that it doesn't all have to be, mixed together.
That's true.
That kind of thing. Right. Like you mentioned, Melinda, there's people that, lead separate lives they're together. I don't know if that's a healthy thing, but, you've got to give each other some space, that kind of stuff.
But you've learned the dance. See, there's a dance.
Yeah, there you go. I love that, because
I got it.
We always say we're in a dance.
And sometimes you're tight, and sometimes
you're rocking and rolling out there, right? Kicking high.
Definitely.
Exactly.
Yes. And sometimes it's a slow dance, and we're really tired. We just lie down on the floor.
Pass out.
Yeah, pass out.
So
this has been very rewarding, and I think our listeners are going to find that some of them have been lazy in their relationships. You mentioned you've been together 40 years, and it was 40 years yesterday that I actually met my husband.
Wow, I love it. Wow. Yay.
We've been through ups and downs, not to the extent that you have. And what I hear from you is what the two of us say, that we're better together than we are alone. And whenever we have thought of going our separate ways for whatever that argument might have been we knew that we would be in touch with each other immediately because separated, we were going to be worrying about each other.
Well, that's the person that you count on at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So we all have
Completely.
moments
Yeah.
where, listen, I have moments with my kids. Psh, I want to dump those things. Well, how did I
Right.
do that? I
It's
couldn't
normal.
have given birth to you. But at the end of the day, your life would be empty without that soul as connected to your
Exactly.
soul.
I can't
Yeah.
even imagine life
Yeah.
without John. I tell him everything. And I mean, when we're apart, it's like, I just can't wait to tell John. We clean our condo every week. It's like, oh yes, it's chatting time. We're always talking.
Yeah.
And I just can't even imagine.
I take great pride in our sense of dignity and ability to persevere and overcome challenges. These are not, bygone type of characteristics. They're still real, and they still have great meaning.
Mhm.
And I take great pride in the fact that we have maintained our self-respect and dignity after all these years, and done something with these lemons. We've done some lemons, and we made some lemonade out of it.
And lemon meringue pie.
Lemon meringue pie. Bring on the lemon meringue pie any day. So.
Yeah.
Sounds terrific.
I think that you two are an inspiration for other people who are in your position. And there are many people out there, I'm sure, that, hopefully will come across the podcast and say, you know what? You've been an inspiration to help me take another step to stay with the person that is counting on me, or being the person who has the problem, understanding what the caregiver is going through.
And understanding that your love is that deep.
And I think you've been able to talk about both pieces of it. So before we close, and I can't believe our time has
I know. Where did it go?
zipped by. It was coffee talk, as I said in the start. Well, maybe a little wine talk.
I was going to say, Melinda, come on. We know what's going on in
It
Ohio.
was butter.
See, I made it look like there was coffee, but it was a little
He's
bit.
really having coffee.
Yeah, it's a straight vodka. I'm sorry.
Before we go, John, I
Mhm.
want your parting words of wisdom that you could give a caregiver
Oh,
as they embark on that journey, because it is a journey.
give up as quickly as you can. No, I would say.
Run, Forrest, run.
Humor is-
No, have humor. Have humor. Yes, humor's big.
It's really big.
Take care of yourself. Treat yourself as an important, vital part of what's going on, and don't give yourself up. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give yourself over completely. Understand that you're doing the best you can. Give yourself a lot of self-talk that says, hey, you're doing great. You're doing fine. You're giving all the love you can, and that's a great thing. Take care, exercise, eat right, meditate, find those quiet spaces and things that hang on to those passions and those things that give you life force, because they will endure and they'll keep you going. And that's not only good for you, that's going to be good for the person you're taking care of. So that's,
And what do you want them
that's my
to,
two-
you said this many times, what do you want them to remember about the job of caregiving?
Well, it's the greatest job you're ever going to get. And it's
I love it.
a beautiful thing you can do with
He
your
always
life.
says that, I just didn't want him
There you
to
go.
leave that out.
Okay, I didn't want to leave that, but that too, 100%.
Thank you.
What a guy.
What a guy, yeah. what a-
I'm going to keep him.
I think you should.
Okay.
So thank you for being on the show today. I am so blessed to have met both of you. I hope that I can meet you in person and not just on the line as older.
Yeah, they've never been to Ohio, so now
my
they
God.
Never. Yes, we need to come to Ohio.
Buckeye State.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
have Good stuff. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, music.
Oh, yay.
Theater.
And you've got a baseball team there.
Got a
Yes.
Huge
beautiful
baseball fans.
Stadium there and on a beautiful
Hey,
lake.
we have
Oh,
a
yeah.
football team again. More importantly,
Yeah, there you go.
For a while.
Brownies are back. Brownies have been back.
Browns are back.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Melinda. Thank you so much, Karen.
You're
You ladies are
welcome.
wonderful.
Well,
What a
we
joy
love
this
you.
has been
Here,
for
here.
us.
Here, here.
Take care.
I
You
appreciate
too.
it.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Pretty good too.
Oh,